Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and as you can tell from the countdown clock, the lesson is about to get started. In case you're new with this, there's a few things I'd like to show you to help you throughout the lesson. Today we're writing songs. Everybody, I'm writing songs, you're writing songs, everybody's writing their own songs, and this is truly for all levels. So anyone can write a great song. You are going to write a great song. Depending on your skill level, you may not be able to play the song at the end of the lesson that you've written, but at least you'll have something you could pass off to one of your musician friends and have them play the song for you that you wrote. So that's the goal today, is to write a song and understand how they're put together. You'll hear lots of talk about chords and about keys, so it helps if you have some knowledge about that. But there are really three parts: the chords, the melody, and the lyrics, and you can just do one of those parts. You don't have to do all three of them. And I should also throw in here, there's many ways to write a song. So this is not the right way to do it. This is just a way that I think is easy to get started on and for me to show you how to do on your own. These lessons are always guided and shaped by your questions, and if you're live with us today, there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is in the public live chat, and the other is the Ask Jamin a Question button, where you can ask me a question privately, and I won't share your identity in case you're afraid that your question is stupid. But it's not. If you're in the archives, though, then just open up the survey. At the end of that, there's a place where you can ask your question. I will say I frequently get questions from students in the archives watching a lesson from 6 months ago, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So please try to be as specific as possible. If you're watching this at LearnPianoLive.com, there should be a PDF and an MP3 button right next to this video. The PDF will often have additional video links inside, so you can get more in-depth instruction on each of the topics. And if you're the kind of person who likes to print out the PDF so you can make the same notes on your physical version as I'm making during the lesson, now would be the time to do that. The MP3 is just a play-along track so you can practice more after the lesson. In traditional lessons, a teacher is going to actually present some new concept for maybe 5 or 10 minutes every couple weeks. The rest of the time is going to be spent applying and refining those concepts. Well, here I'm spouting off hours of new information every week, so it's totally unreasonable to expect you to actually absorb all of that. Instead, the goal of these live lessons is for you to find some little nugget of something that makes sense, but is a bit of a challenge, and for you to go practice it, because practice is where all the improvement's going to happen. So don't feel bad if you have to leave the live lesson when you find that little thing that you're going to practice. And of course, if I'm going too fast, you can always rewind the live lessons or replay in the archives as much as you want. If these live lessons start feeling random or meandering, it's because they are, on purpose. So if you're the kind of person who wants classical training with a step-by-step method, then you're going to want to check out Kloppel Academy on the website. It's included in your live lesson subscription, so you can do both or either. And the upper levels are seriously hard work, but it's going to take you all the way from ground zero all the way up to being ready to enter any major music college as a piano major in classical or jazz. And thankfully, I think that's about all we need to cover before the lesson. So if you'd stick around afterwards and fill out the survey, I would love your feedback. But for now, let's have some fun and make some music. Welcome back. So yesterday we wrote several songs, and then since the stream was not able to be recorded, we wrote several songs again. So today we're going to write our first melody. We're just going to go for one melody. As it turns out, melodies are a lot more, they're not more difficult to write, honestly, than the chords, but they are more difficult to go through and explain. So couple things here, a couple disclaimers before we get started. By the way, make sure that the private chat, even though if it doesn't show you that I received the message, it is popping up on my thing. So I will get to those questions at the end of the lesson, but unless it's like an emergency, I usually don't address it right there in the moment. I'll wait till the end of the lesson. So go ahead and send those in, though I am getting them. So melodies. First thing we do is chords. Then we do melodies, and then we do lyrics. As I've said, put the disclaimer many times before, there's tons of different ways to write songs, so a lot of people start with the lyrics. And then they're like, well, I've got this lyric, so, I've got this chord progression, now what melody could I come up with? Or any combination of chords, melody, and lyrics. You're probably going to have all three of those. So then the way we're doing it is chords. melody, lyrics, because that is the easiest way to teach it. People who come up with lyrics first usually don't have they don't need advice on how to come up with lyrics because they're already doing it. Or people who have a melody in their head, they just make up melodies. They aren't going to have very many lessons on just how to be creative in that way. Those people just have that special skill set already. So then melody and lyrics are more ethereal, perhaps. Chords are a lot easier to put together. And already I've contradicted myself, I realize that. But what I'm trying to say, I think, is that the melodies, if I go through this and you're like, that's a sucky melody, then I accept. And it's same thing on the lyrics. And which is why the first 5 times we went through this, we didn't even do lyrics. We just did chords and then a little bit on melodies. But the truth is, a lot of you guys are wanting to write melodies, and there are ways that you can formulate, here's what a melody is going to consist of. So that's what we're going to try to do today. And if it feels to you like that's totally bogus and the melody that we came up with isn't a good melody, then there's nothing I can do about that. But that's usually you creative types who want to break all the rules and stuff like that. For those of you who are just wanting to hey, what can I do to improve my melody writing? We're together on this. So the lyrics and the melodies are a lot more personal. So if what I'm saying here doesn't match with your own personal experience or you've got your own system, cool, use your system. This is not for you. First thing on writing melodies and lyrics, even though we're not doing lyrics today, first thing is that you have to have something to say. So my example then would be if this was a story writing lesson and I was all right, so today we're going to write a story. You're all right, so what story am I writing? No, you're going to write the story. Okay, what am I writing a story about? No, you're writing, what do you want to write a story about? I don't know, whatever. Well, you need to have a hero. Okay, fine. Do you want it to be a boy or a girl? I don't know, whatever. At some point, you have to make some decisions and you have to jump into the character and have something to say. Same thing goes with melody and lyrics. I can't teach you how to have something to say or how to want to create these things, or I can show you some of the tools. But if you have that, if you're waiting for it to come to you, you're going to have to jump in at some point and work on writing your own story. Get excited about some story that you're going to tell, some melody that you're going to write, some lyric that you're going to put on top of this song. Okay, so a lot of it's really personal, and I just can't do that part for you. You have to want to do this. Otherwise, I'm just forcing you to write a story that you don't want to write, and in the end, it's going to suck. So, having said all of that, let's go ahead and I guess jump into our PDF. First thing we need to do is come up with those chords. I'm just going to use the regular old chords, the 1, 4, 5, 6 thing that we did from our Instapop song in yesterday's lesson. So I'm going to write out a song here. In fact, I'm just going to write a chorus. It's going to go 1, 4, 6, 5, 1, 4, 6, 5. Cool. And if that seems way too simple, you need to go back to yesterday's lesson because they're all that simple. That right there is our chorus, and so now we just need to put some kind of melody on top of that to give you an idea of what that feels like. Let's go ahead and turn on our drums, which sound, again, like this. We'll be in the key of C to make this nice and easy. 1, 2, no, yeah. So the first thing you want to do is play that thing a trillion times, whatever your song is. And the first thing we want to start to hear is not the melody. First thing we want to start to hear is what is the rhythm in my song. And this is, again, something that just has to kind of float out on its own. Or you can just make something up. If you just decide, okay, fine, randomly I'm going to pick this. Kind of like in our story writing example, all right, fine, whatever, the hero is going to be a boy. Well, you're obviously not excited about your hero at that point, so you gotta buy into it a little bit. So same thing with the rhythm. You could just make it up. You don't have to have this rhythm that comes out of the song. But whatever rhythm it is that you come up with, you gotta commit to it and like really start to feel it. So that would be something like. I'm just gonna play this over and over until something comes out of it. Da 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 da. Da da da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da da da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da da da. Da 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 da. So that's the rhythm that I'm just making up, and I know that for some of you is frustratingly abstract, like because I just made something up, and you're like, that's the whole problem. I can't make stuff up like that. So it doesn't really matter what the rhythm is. If you want to, in fact, you can steal the rhythm from some other song. So just sing some other song, but instead of singing the notes, just like play the same note over and over. So like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star would be. That would be the rhythm of it, and then you could like use that as your rhythm if in case something doesn't like pop out to you. I know it can be kind of frustrating, and for some of you, you have no idea what I'm talking about at all. Trust me, half of the population is like, what this guy's just like, he promised me a lesson on how to make stuff up, and then his advice is make stuff up. Thanks a lot, dude. So da 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 da. So that's the one that I'm using. What I would recommend is, if you don't know how to write music already, then you get a tape recorder and you record yourself playing that, because you are definitely going to forget that in just a second. So whatever your rhythm was, you want to get that somehow, cement it in time so that you can come back to it. Now, if you do know how to write music, then you got to like, go through and like actually write out all the rhythms. 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. 2. So 1, 2, 3, 8. Last one's gonna be 8th note. 3. Yeah. 2 yen. So we're gonna have a little 8th rest. Ba Zoom in, Jamin. That would be helpful. Yeah. 16th, 8th, 16th, 8th. Ba ba da ba da ba. Ba da da. Yeah, cool. So that if you can write music, that obviously becomes very helpful now, because now I don't need a tape recorder. I can just write that down and I can come back to it anytime. And that's my rhythm. 1, 2, 3, and up, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and boom. Da 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 da. So whatever I do from here on is just going to use exactly that rhythm there. And I'm going to have that, of course, 4 times, because I did that once right there, once right there, once right there, once right there. So now I have my rhythm that has kind of come out of the song, or I've stolen the rhythm from another song that I like. And then we need to kind of try to stay within a singable range. Now, we've talked a lot about singable ranges when we talk about the song covers that we do every other week. So in general, you're going to want to kind of stay in like that range right there. Have an E or a D or an F somewhere in there as the highest notes, and the lowest notes being like those ones right there. But it's totally safe to stay like mid-high range like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And many songs, again, if you join us for the bi-weekly song covers, like very, very small ranges for a lot of songs. So you only don't have to use a whole lot of notes. But this right here would be like the maximum number that you'd want to use. That is a huge, huge range for a song. I'm going to pick like this right here. as our range. So the lowest one's going to be E, highest one's going to be D, unless I decide to change that later, but I'm going to try to stay kind of within that range. So that means that that rhythm that I'm going to be using, ba, ba, da, 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 we can use that, any of these notes over that. I'm just kind of picking random notes in here, ish. So, but you can hopefully hear that rhythm that's like coming out, even though I'm using different notes and stuff. It's like, oh, that's that motif that we had from before is definitely inside of there. So we're going to stay within a singable range. Another way you can do that is just make sure you stay on the staff. Again, if you know how to read and write music, then it's really helpful because you just want to make your highest note like right up here, and then your lowest note like right down there, and then as long as you stay on the staff, you're golden. If you don't know how to, that's not helpful at all, sorry. But that's the general idea. And then we would want to, in general, have a verse that is lower and then have a chorus that's higher. So for that, we're actually going to write out this let's go ahead and put in a chorus here. So we've got a verse, that'll be our verse up there, and then our chorus right here will be, I'm just going to put these in a different order here, the 1, the 4, the 5, and 6, because those are the safe ones. Hopefully you already know that because you were here at the other lessons. So we're going to go 4, 1, 6, 5. 4, 1, 6, 5. So we want the melody of the verse parts to be towards the lower end of the range that we picked, and the choruses to be on the higher part of the range that we came up with. And at this point, it was probably helpful to like have a recording of yourself playing through the chords so you can play along with yourself, because playing the melody and the chords at the same time is quite difficult. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to mute my mic and just record these chords going through one time through the verse and then the chorus. Cool, so now it's time to try some of this stuff out. I'm going to, again, this is all really general stuff. Hopefully, eventually, you've got a melody that like kind of comes out in your head, and you can just like make some of these things up after you've done this several times. In the same way that after you practice as a kid telling stories and telling terrible stories and terrible jokes, eventually like you are able to, someone says, hey, tell me a story, and you can like just make up a story on the spot, and maybe even incorporate some jokes in there and have it be a funny story or a scary story, all that stuff. It's just a matter of practice. It's not like, storytelling is a talent and an art for sure, but you can get super decent at it with some practice. Everybody can. So then, here we go, back to the top. I'm going to try out that rhythm, and I'm going to try to stay low for the first part on the verse, and I'm going to go to the higher part on the chorus. Here we go. then that was a thing, and now we're starting to like actually write a melody. We kind of stayed low for the first part, and then we kind of went to the higher section for the second part, and we're really super close. Now we got a rhythm, we've got we're staying low, we're going high, and then here's the other thing that I'm kind of doing accidentally. These aren't totally random things, because the random notes I'm picking, because we've got chord tones on chord changes. So this is where you have to take into consideration, stop. If you just sing, it'll be fine. If you write a song on the piano, you can get really screwy. But if you sing it, you're gonna be fine, because automatically when you sing, like if you try to sing a note right now, just like try it at home, just sing a note that might be a melody. And I guarantee you that you just sang either an F or an A or a C, because your ear can't help but like sing along with this thing right here. So almost nobody sang like when I played that, I'm like, sing a melody. No one went da. Everybody went da, da, da. One of those three was the one that your ear automatically heard. But if you're pressing the buttons on a piano, you can totally like pick a note for melody. I don't know, that one might be great. No, it's horrible. So these rules that I'm about to share with you only apply if you're not singing this thing, which is a terrible idea anyway. So maybe I shouldn't even give out this advice. But if you are writing it on the piano, you want to take into consideration that on each chord, you should be emphasizing a chord tone, one of the notes out of the chord. So that means that right here at the beginning of it, on this one chord, I should be playing, and if you don't know what a one chord is, you need to go back to yesterday's lesson where we talked about all that stuff when we were writing out the chords for the song. But one of these notes should be the note that I pick as my melody note. So yeah, I've got my rhythm, da, 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 right? But then it needs to start or end, or somewhere in the middle, emphasize that note or 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 that note, because those are going to be the ones that are going to sound the best. So when I start out my song and I want to stay low, I want to stay in this range. Well, I see the first chord is a one chord, and so I'm going to probably pick one of these two notes as my beginning notes. I'm not going to pick that thing because that would sound terrible in my song. So the very first thing I'm going to do is land on that note. Now I've got a four chord coming up, which means I'm going to that thing right there, which includes those notes down there, which means probably I'm going to go up to that note. So if I just write out the notes here that I want to emphasize, maybe like start on an E here, and E is one of the notes in the one chord. And I'm probably going to go to an F right here. And then on a sixth chord, I want to play one of these notes right here. So maybe I could go back to that E. And then the five, maybe I could go up to that G there. So in the back of my mind, I kind of have that going on, and that's part of the way that I was cheating here, is I'm going to da 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 da. Yeah, so then that ends up sounding something like this. So then the same thing happens on this guy over here. So now I want to be up on the upper part because I'm now on the chorus. So on that four chord, I want to pick one of those notes there. So probably that note. That note's a little bit high for the song. But yeah, I could go up to a C here, and then on a one chord, I can maybe go to an E right there. Then on a six chord, I can still stay on that E. And then on a five chord, I could go to that one. Honestly, I kind of want to go to that one. I know it's really super high, which is why at the beginning when I said I'll stay in the key of C, and I was like, no, because I knew the five was going to be really high in the key of C. But we could go up to a G for that one. So then now our first part sounds, well, let's go back to the chorus, do the whole thing. So we got... So maybe that makes some sense to you because we're putting chord tones on the chord changes. So at the point of each chord change, then just ask yourself, what are the acceptable notes for this thing? And then at that point, like you are, at some point after you do that a number of times, then you will just start to hear the chord tones. Or again, once you start singing this stuff, all these rules, a lot of these rules just go away because your ear's naturally going to hear the right notes. The danger of just singing a melody and not calculating it this way is that you might accidentally be hearing some other melody and subconsciously like singing that one instead. And so you write this great, awesome song. You're like, where did this come from? Just the depths of my soul made up this song that is just perfect in every way. And then you play it for a friend. They're like, wow, it's the best song I've ever heard. You play it for 10 friends. And they're like, yeah, this is great. And then you like go to put it on iTunes and one of your friends goes, wait a second, isn't that one song from that one movie? And you're like, oh, that's my favorite movie in the world. How did I not see that I just stole the melody from this other song? So that totally happens all the time to everybody. So that's the one danger of just only singing it. If you just sing a melody and it seems to like have come out of nowhere and is gorgeous and is beautiful, maybe you're a genius. Or maybe you stole your melody accidentally, which is fine. If you've got different chords underneath it, that might work out. But just know that that's a real thing. And when it happens to you, then don't feel as dumb as you're going to feel, because everybody does it. Connecting chord tones, moving mostly stepwise. So this just means don't leap around a whole lot. So when you're picking your chord tones, you don't want to go from, that note to, let's see, the 4 chord, to that note right there, because that's going to sound too jumpy to go from that note to that note, even that note to that note, or that note to that. Like best if you can just like kind of stay in one tiny little area. And you'll probably notice, it might be frustrating to you already, that like when I chose my the range for my song, like I chose a really small range, and then I said, well, now split that in half, and now your verse is just going to stay in this range. Like, what? That's only like 4 notes. Exactly. So we were all supposed to be moving mostly stepwise and not having big leaps and jumps in there. And again, your ear will do that naturally. Your ear is not going to, like, if you just play the chords, your ear is not going to come up with something like, right? This just doesn't, like, you don't sing that kind of stuff. When you sing, everything is very much the next note over all the time. Cool. 1 to 5 for anticipation and 5 to 1 for resolution. So this is a thing. I think it's a thing. It seems to be that when I transcribe those songs every other week, I don't know how many hundreds of them we've done now, plus the thousands of songs that I've transcribed before I started doing any of this stuff. It seems to be a thing that songs are going to center around the 1 of the key, and then they're going to build in anticipation until you get to the climax of the song, which is usually around the 5 of the key, and then they're going to slowly make their way back down to the 1, and that's where the song is going to resolve. I've tried to nail this thing down. It was actually presented to me by one of my mentors, like, hey, have you ever noticed this thing? And then, like, as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, that is all over the place. So maybe I'm just making it up because I think that he's super awesome and he told me that it might be a thing. So it might just be a mind trick here. But it seems like when I write these songs out for you guys, the ones that center around the 1 and move up to the 5 and then get back down to the 1 eventually have a more natural feeling feel to them. That's got to be a better way to say that sentence. Let me show you what I mean. I'll do the exact same thing, except this time I'm going to, on purpose, try to make my way up to, well, hey, look, I kind of did it right there. Oh, really? I automatically did it on this song? That stinks. Okay, so with all the stuff I was just saying about going from the one in the key of C is C, which is the note that I picked right there. And for the climax of the song, right there or right there, I automatically put in a G. So I kind of already did it accidentally because I went from the 1 up to the G and then back down to the 1. So let me try that again. I'll show you what that's going to sound like. Yeah, let's go for it. I don't like that one. I'm going to change that one to a D. There you go. You can see that. That one right there. That'll feel more natural. When I jump up to that note, it just doesn't feel right. It'll feel way more natural, especially, if you sing along, these problems all go away. When I sing it, my ear really wants to go down to that note instead of up to that one. Both of them are in the 5 chord. This is a question of whether I want to go up to that G or down to that D. And for the verse, I just want to kind of stay down in that range. I don't want to be going up too much. Maybe on the second one, I'd go to the G to help build that anticipation of going up to that C. So here we go again. Yeah, so even here, I like this one being the D, and then, excuse me, I like that one being the D, and then we can put the G right there, and it has that major anticipation of coming back down to the 1. So this is the 1 that kind of works its way up and up and up and up until it hits that G, and then at the end of the song, I come back down to a C to resolve the whole thing. So then, we've got that. We've got a nice rhythm. We have neatly placed each of the notes inside of the chords. We have gone kind of from the 1-ish up to the 5-ish and then back down again. And it all feels really nice and neat and clean. We've sung along to get rid of some of the rough edges where the notes that are technically correct within inside the chord have been smoothed out and feel like a singable thing. And then we can just kind of sand off some more of the rough edges by putting a non-chord tone, this is the opposite of what I just said, non-chord tone right on a chord change and then resolving to the note. So, for example, if we have, let's take any, man, I wish I had a spinner for this so I could prove that it's being random, but let's take this one right here. It's at the end of a phrase. Instead of going to that D like we're supposed to, going to the note right above it and then to it. So we're going to go for this one from an E to a D. So I'm not going to the chord tone on purpose to create suspense, because if you go to the chord tone, it feels nice and locked in and safe and secure. If you go to not a chord tone, then people are like, oh no, this person messed up, until you finally resolve it to the note. They're like, oh, that was kind of nice. So that's going to feel something like this. Or a different way, same exact thing, just a slightly different rhythm. So you can see how I didn't go to the chord tone that was promised, but instead I kind of stayed a note above it and then slid down into that note. So that's just a suspension, a melodic suspension. Instead of going to the chord tone that's listed, I go to the note that's right above the chord tone. And then the last couple little things is adding more space. This is probably less relevant. Again, if you're singing all this stuff, then a lot of these problems go away. But in a lot of cases, especially if you're writing it on the piano, pianists, because your fingers never have to take a breath, you can just like keep playing. And so you come up with melodies that sound something like this. There's just no space in there. Like if you try to sing all that, somewhere in there you're going to be gasping for a breath because your fingers just kept moving through the notes. So make sure you've got nice space in there. The vast majority of music is just empty space. The notes are just little decorations within the empty space that make the empty space more decorated. Man, got to work on the sentences. So then, adding more space and then repeating phrases and having a repetitive rhythm helps, but also making sure that you repeat wherever your chords repeating the notes that you chose. So here, picking an E and an F and an E, instead of picking entirely new chord tones to go to, will also help it feel more repetitive. And again, if you come to any of our song cover lessons that we do every other week, then you'll notice the same little melodic patterns show up over and over and over. The song is basically just a couple little phrases, maybe 2 or 3 little phrases that get repeated over different chords to make up an entire song. That's like almost all of the songs that we do ever are that. And I believe that is our last piece of advice for this time through. Your helpful suggestions, your not helpful suggestions are appreciated too, because somewhere in the sea of those, we get ideas for ways to change this and make this even better. Let's quickly see if we have any answers to what has been sent in. Who write the best melodies? You do. I don't know. It's definitely a personal taste thing. So I would say whoever you're super into, listen to them a lot and then sing a lot. Seriously, singing is going to solve all this. Even if you're not a singer, just singing the notes. Your ear is really good at writing melodies. Just hasn't had a whole lot of practice, perhaps. So yeah, you definitely should do more of it. I don't have a personal favorite for melodies. Okay. How do I play the chords and the melody together? Wow. Okay, so you guys have some really big questions today. The basic idea is you have to play the chord in a mixture of the lower fingers of your right hand and the upper fingers of your left hand. Your pinky is going to hit the bass notes, and your pinky is going to play the melody notes. Let me show you on our song what that would look like. It'd be something like this. Okay, but then I know I probably just raised more questions than I answered about how to do all of that. So, but the idea is the melody is the highest note, the lowest note is the bass line, and somewhere in there you have to catch chord tones. And then the rest of it is a whole 2-hour lesson all on its own that we should definitely do again sometime soon. It's also in the archives for sure. What's the name of the song you were playing in the video before the lesson? I have no idea. Maybe Angel in Blue Jeans. It should have said in the corner. Maybe You Matter to Me. Maybe, I don't know. I'll watch again and try to figure it out. I don't know. Tell me who you are so I can send you the answer to that one. I don't know which one it was, but it's one of the covers from YouTube, I'm sure. Cool. And it looks like that is all of our questions. So that is the beginning of melody writing. I'm sure our next one will be even more detailed, but join us tomorrow when we do the lyrics. We'll have Kendra in studio, and we will force her to sing all of the lyrics that we come up with, and I'm actually going to have her write all the lyrics, and we'll go through all the guidelines together on how to do that. So, till next time, I love you. Good luck. Luck and have fun.